Hello and welcome to Being Anxiety Free. My name is Emma Upton and I'm here to spill the tea on what it actually means to be anxiety free, to know who you're here to be, what you're here to do so the unique gifts that are locked in the codes of your DNA get to flow through you and into the world. So let's dive in together. Happy Trigger-Free Tuesday, although it should be called Trigger Tuesday today. Anybody else feeling triggered? Is the moon doing something? I know I don't go for all that stuff, but oh my gosh. So I am talking today about this little guy. There he is. The toad, triggered toad, who spends his life trying to get us, tease us with these poisonous warts on the back. You know that notion of lick the toad, get the high. Like, well, if you've got a brain like me, you like to achieve, you like to get stuff done, you're always on the hunt for the next thing. We're always looking for dopamine hits. A lot of people get diagnosed with ADHD when they've got a brain that works like that, like always looking for the next thing. There he is in the book. That triggered little toad who I describe in here. The trigger toad is the second of our trio of terror, the second of the three deadly spokes in the human wheel. The Oxford Dictionary defines him as a tailless amphibian, a detestable person, similar wretch, beast, pig, rat. Like, yes, that is what happens in my brain. Both descriptions fit this area of work perfectly. Your toad will do whatever is needed to get its hands on its precious reward, dopamine. It is always on the hunt. And the analogy that I use for my overthinking brain, because it likes to latch onto something, so I give it good stuff to think about and obsess about, rather than like how I'm ruining my life and the past mistakes that I've made and how I can fret about the future. This is way more fun. So if you have a brain like mine, like, create it with colour and fun things. Don't try and stop it from being what it is, because it's just a menace. But give it the good stuff. The toad is always tempting us with dopamine, like, come on, lick my back, like, chase this dopamine, let's get that high. And then you get it and you lick it, and then you end up being sick as a pig over everybody that you love having this triggered response. And then afterwards, you're just in this aftermath of sick and poo that you've just projectiled onto everyone. And you're like, what the hell was that? How did that happen? How am I here? What? That is what the toad is notorious for. Some examples I use here. I am going to talk about the client and mentee, the mentor and the mentee relationship, but dopamine is actually a neurotransmitter made in your brain as part of the brain's reward system. It sends a message of, that's bloody lovely, throughout the body when it's stimulated. It exists inside humans. Dopamine occurs in the brain when having great sex, especially with loads of foreplay, during shopping trips where everything fits and your bank account is just endless, when smelling something yummy cooking in the oven and you walk in from work, during intensive workouts while you're jamming to your favourite tune. They are the places and spaces that we get dopamine from. But if you have a brain like mine that's always seeking more, then that's not enough. There's a next level, and we're here for more. We're here for expansion, so we're always looking for more. Sex with hot people, doing weirder stuff, shopping weekends in Paris, no established spending limit, gourmet takeouts every night, in-home Peloton installed, as well as a hot yoga studio with a living yogi. Like, our search for that dopamine is relentless. So if you are having a day today where you feel like you are just looking for that toad and everything is annoying you, and you can feel yourself getting triggered, and sometimes the trigger is external and we just projectile it out towards people. We're annoyed, we're angry, we're frustrated, and they get the brunt of it, like sick or poop. But sometimes, most often, with a lot of the people in my world anyway, we don't do that. We repress. It's the same poison, it's the same sick, it's the same poop. But now it's just running down our leg and we're swallowing the acid back into the stomach, and we're just destroying our esophagus as we're remaining quiet. They're secretly seething at everything and everything. Like, there's two ways to be triggered. The second is more of the one that I have always gone for. What are you? Sometimes it comes out, but in the main, it's that way. Our mentors and our clients, if you're doing it right, if you're here to expand and you're putting yourself in expansive spaces, if you've ever been in a mastermind and you're not triggered, you're not in the right mastermind. Like, you're meant to be triggered. You're meant to be bringing the stuff that feels uncomfortable. You're meant to be bringing the stuff that you have suppressed. The sick running down your throat, the poop running down your leg that is just stinking and poisoning you. That stuff needs to go. That hunt for feeling triggered. Like me this morning, I'm triggered, but I'm very aware of my triggers. I've done the work around it. I'm wearing my oranges. I've been in the woods with all the tans. I'm smelling. Oh, where is she? Oh, she's there. I'm like, where have I put her? I've just had it. I'm like, got my sweet orange oil. I'm doing the work to bring myself into that unconscious space because there's something in there that's not happy this morning, wasn't happy this morning. And I'm able to work through it because I'm creating this sensory experience around it. Where are you in your relationships, especially in your mentor relationships, whether you're the client, whether you're the mentor? I am both in so many different spaces because I don't know how you can be a mentor without being a mentee, but that's a different podcast episode. We're going to be triggered. We're going to be bringing stuff that makes us feel like we want to be sick, but we want to suppress it. We want to give the cold shoulder. We want to be mad about it. We want to talk about it behind their back. Like that is a very regular human response to being in mentorship. Because we're going to spaces that we don't want to go, that we've repressed for so long. But those are the spaces where the code blockers are. So this notion that knowing our purpose on this earth is to know who we're here to be. So that then once we know that and we have that foundation, what we're here to do gets to flow through. You don't have to wait till you know yourself inside out that different. Like it's an evolution. I still have no idea. And yet we keep going. What we're here to do. So our work gets to flow through. If we're figuring this and this out, we're trying to do it alone. We're not really doing it. We can't see where we're avoiding because our brain is set to keep us safe. Our brain is trying to preserve those things that are that it seeks as being harmful to us because it creates this reaction which feels horrible. It is actively trying to keep those things away from us. We're never going to find them by ourselves. We're only going to find them when we put ourselves in a situation and our mentor is talking about something and all of a sudden you're just like, fuck you. I hate you. I'm leaving. I don't want to do that. Like if you can fit that triggered response, that I've taught my brain now to actively not enjoy it. Enjoy is the wrong word. Celebrate moments of awareness where I see that happening. Because I'm like, oh, there's a big block here. That code blocker that's getting in the way of me figuring out who I'm here to be and what I'm here to do. This is blocking that. This. And the more intense it feels, the more you just want to be like, go away, stop. I don't want to be around you. I want to remove the more it feels like that, the bigger that block is. And when we're able to convince our brain, because it will listen to whatever we want it to. We just have to be willing to want it to have a different dialogue with us. If we can get to the point of being like, no, brain, when we feel that way, it's a good thing because it means that there is a code blocker in the way of the essence of our codes that are locked in our DNA of who we are. The only way we get to access them is by removing the code blockers. If I'm heavily triggered by something that somebody else is saying or doing or being, it means that there is something for me to learn and I want to run away. And I'm gonna probably, and especially if it's the first time it's happened around a subject, like I'm gonna retreat, I'm gonna go back to all those old habits, everything that I thought I was through. Like, have you ever done that? You're in the work, you're like, oh my God, I know myself, I know my work, like I'm crushing it. Then this huge trigger comes up and you're like, God damn it, I really, excuse me, really? And it feels like we're starting from day one, but we're not. Because we have the evidence. We have the evidence of what it feels like to feel triggered, to do that natural response and then to go, but I don't want it to be that way. So I'm going to step back towards it and I'm going to figure out with my team, with my community, with the people in my world, not by myself, like the lone wolf, like the person that can handle it all. I'm not that. I'm going to lean in to all the spaces I actively and intentionally put myself into to move through this so it can go away for all eternity. And then that code blocker releases. Guess what happens then? You know what happens then. You get another greater piece of the puzzle of who you are in that moment. And it does happen. It can happen literally simultaneously. That moment where you're like, oh my God, that code, like I'm not triggered by that anymore. I stayed, I didn't run. I got mad, but then I went back and I was like, I got really mad because I was triggered because this is obviously my issue and I was projecting onto you because it felt like your issue, but it's not, it's mine, and I want to do the work around it. And you're willing to do that. You move through it and it can literally be like a da-dum. Oh, another piece of the puzzle of me. That makes sense. That makes space for this next piece of my work. My life's work. The next piece just lands in a moment of, oh, it gets to be this. That. When we recognize and realize that mentorship is meant to trigger us, life is meant to trigger us. I've put in the comments at the beginning of this, like, triggers. I think trigger warnings are hilarious. And somebody's going to be coming there being like, oh, you think this awfully traumatic thing is hilarious, Emma? No, I don't think the things themselves are hilarious by any stretch. So don't mishear me here. What I think is hilarious is the fact that we all go around expecting the world to know what our traumas are and to navigate around them so that we don't feel triggered. Here I am over here being like, where is my toad? Why am I having this outrageous response? How am I trying to put this on somebody else? Like, oh, you shouldn't have spoke about this subject because it's my trigger. And how do I move through it? Can you hear? Like, my work is awaken the inner power. How powerful do you feel when you're like, there is nothing that can happen in this world that I feel like you're going to have to hide from me because I can't handle it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take a beat. Maybe I'll have a big cry. The amount of times I sit on the floor and just sob being like, this is a lot. This is a lot. This is a lot. This is a lot. I'm not saying we go through life like bulletproof because that's impossible. But what I am saying is you get to rise in this power. There is this power that comes from within that when you can tap into that being like, oh my gosh, this is immense, this is bigger than I want it to be. It's having all kind of impact and effect on me. But you know what? I'm not going to run away and I'm not going to try and make the world hide it from me because the reality is it's there. What I get to do is step into my power. And you know what? The levels of power that we awaken within ourselves, the universe like wakes up and she's like, oh, we've got a real one, not one that's just like passively talking about manifesting and bringing things into the world. We've got somebody that actually wants to do it. Let's give her some more airtime. And that's what happens. That's the way it works. And then when we get to the other side of that, we're like, what? Who am I? How did I do that? How did I navigate that? How? When everything inside me just wanted to fall apart and have an existential crisis for 6 months. I didn't. Like, I took a minute or 2 or 3 and I really found it out. But then I moved through the trigger and I'm on the other side and I get it, and it's allowed my life to make a bit more sense in this nonsensical world. Like, yes, that is the power. And get around while the rest of the world is trying to find ways to hide from those things. We get to actively put ourselves into those spaces and be like, you know what? This is a lot. You're all powerful people. I am triggered. I'm triggered by you all because you're so amazing and it's bringing up so much for me. And then we get to awaken that power and we get to lean in further, even though it's really uncomfortable. And our humanness is going, don't do it. This is horrible. Yes, it is. Which, if we're trying to make life not feel it, we're going to spend our whole life being disappointed. What we get to do is be like, oh, this is a lot. I don't want to do it. And yet, the power of moving ourselves into spaces where we can surrounding ourselves with individuals that know how to support us through these moments. Be like, like the power of you stepping up, being like, I'm so triggered. I'm so triggered. I want to run away. I want to go back to these habits and ways of being that have kept me in survival mode up until this point. I feel it, but I'm here and I'm in this space and I don't want to. Let's move through it together. The power that we end up on the other side of that, you won't recognize yourself. I don't recognize myself. I'm a few years into this work and I look back and I'm like, who are you, Emma? People who know me and love me, they're like, it's literally like being with a different person, and it's on purpose. I do this over and over again. I listen to my brain. I hear Frances, who is just mean to me all of the time. She's horrible to me. I hear my triggered toad always trying to get me to be responsive and reactive. And I hear the monkey who's relentless with my thoughts. What about this? What about this? Let's overthink this. I hear them all the time. They're really bloody loud in my head. But the power comes from me recognizing them and be like, but I'm not listening. I'm done listening to you. You don't get to control my life anymore. There is a power inside me that is so much stronger than you three. And I'm going to listen out for you. And then I'm going to move into the opposite direction of what you're telling me. Because you know what? I'm pretty sure the version that I'm meant to be lies that way and not that way. So let's frigging go. Our triggers are like little breadcrumbs along the way. And when we move toward them, as uncomfortable as our brain makes it for us, and we realize we don't die, and we awaken a power inside us that is so intense that nobody or nothing can ever take it away from us, that the magic of being triggered and wanting the triggers and seeing the trigger warning and diving in anyway. Next level power. So today, wear your tans. Trigger Tuesday. Go out looking there for it. Get your oranges out. Take a big whiff and be like, I'm on it. Where am I triggered? Where am I falling into those old habits and patterns? Where can I see that little toad destroying my life, my business? And I refuse. Happy Triggered